Hello. Do you ever think you're a selfish person or have had others tell you that you're selfish or self centered and don't listen? If so, this video may be very helpful to you to kind of come to grips with whether that's true or not. My name is Bill Clotty. I'm a psychotherapist and licensed clinical social worker with over 45 years of experience with folks, bringing some of that experience in here. Uh, so let's get right into it. I've got 5 questions that will help you determine whether or not you're really probably a selfish person or not. And it's important to know that I think you're probably not. Now, why would I say that without saying anything else? And the answer to that is that I think that most people who are really selfish and closed-minded are not going to explore this. They're not going to be too willing to look at that because that's pretty tough to look at. So right off the bat, I think it's possible that you're not really a selfish person, but you have reasons to believe you were that were correct or incorrect. By the way, this is my 5th video. Welcome to it. I'm a beginner, and this is pretty much just taped. I don't take any stops after I get going, so here I go. And I'll say to you that maybe there's 3 reasons that you might think you're a selfish person. Number 1, maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe it's true that you're a selfish person. In other words, someone who doesn't take feedback, someone who likes to argue, someone who will never admit they're wrong, someone who's not listening very well to other people, and causing problems for themselves and their own life and for the people around them. So maybe you are selfish, and if so, this will be really helpful to you. A second reason you might think you're selfish, but actually not be selfish, is that you got messages from childhood or a little later in life that you're selfish. I think particularly many people were raised to think, oh, don't brag about yourself. Don't be all that. Don't talk so much. Don't be so proud or happy. Just be a good girl or a good boy. Kind of get along and do as you're told. You don't have to think you're all that. So we get those messages. A lot of people did. The third point here is that you may not be selfish, but you might have somebody telling you that you're selfish. Usually that's one specific person or maybe 2. And if those people currently or recently or in the past have often had disagreements with you or arguments or problems, many times that's, by the way, a spouse or a partner or a close family member, maybe a coworker, who keeps telling you you're being selfish or you're not listening. Maybe they're being selfish and not listening. That's a possibility, and it's very confusing and hard to tell which is which. So that's why I'm going to give you 5 suggestions here that will help you get an idea of whether it's you or not. Number 1, if you find yourself never compromising or almost never, probably not a good sign, okay? You might also think about this quiz in relation to that person or persons telling you you're selfish, okay? But this is mostly for you. So if you're almost never compromised, that's probably not a good sign, okay? Number 2, if you're consistently getting more from others than you're giving, and I don't mean necessarily financially, but in support or help, if other people are doing a lot more for you than you are doing for them, maybe there is a selfish issue going on there, right? Number 3, if you find yourself often pressuring other people to do what you want, like really arguing and pushing, not just even about the disagreement, but arguing that they have to agree with you, that's kind of a selfish sign, okay? And a number 4, if you feel you're never really listening to others, but just trying to win the argument, now that's kind of common. You're not the only one that does that in relationships, but if it's particularly true that you're not really listening to them, that might be a sign of being selfish. And the fifth thing would be if you feel no concern about other people's hurt or pain or suffering, um, that's a kind of a self-centered characteristic when you can't feel the other person's suffering or pain. Okay? So those are 5 things. Almost never compromising, consistently doing less than other people, pressuring others to do what you want, not really listening to them, and not seeming to care about their suffering. So if you've taken this quiz and you come away thinking, boy, that's me, then it's really the first step is to say that and admit it and acknowledge it, and then start to work on that by trying to not do those 5 things and instead do the opposite. Okay? If, on the other hand, you hear this quiz and almost none of it or none of it at all fits you, then chances are that you're not really a selfish person, but you have a belief based on your childhood of how you were raised and what you were taught, or specific person or a couple people around you telling you that you're selfish and that they may be selfish or inaccurate in that, okay? So now what else can you do with that? Let's go through just a couple things you can do. If you find, for example, that you're not probably a selfish person, number one, really acknowledge that to yourself and say, hey, I just took this quiz. This isn't the only quiz in the world, by the way, but it's a good one. And this says I'm not a selfish person. And I'm guessing you're probably also thinking, I don't think I really am a selfish person. And this kind of gives me number 2, I guess, in this list is after examining this and thinking about this issue, 2 is that getting some confidence from this quiz that, yeah, I don't think I am that person. Another thing you can do that would be really helpful is ask others that you trust and care for, especially people you trust, if they think you're a selfish person. Have that discussion. Can be very helpful, very enlightening, and really a good idea to do. You know, if you come away with that thinking that you're, again, thinking you're not a selfish person, then I would say it's time to kind of challenge that person or your past who tells you you are. And not in an angry way, not in an aggressive way, but talking back in your own head to those messages you got of be a good girl or don't argue or don't brag about what you did or, always try to get along and do what other people want because it's easier and nicer. You can really challenge that and keep that in mind. If it's a particular person around you, you can challenge them. And here's like the 5th point on this, how you challenge them is to just do it in an assertive, calm, direct way by speaking up and responding to them. If they're more of a bully or a real pushy person, that can be extremely difficult. But this quiz and this information should give you some confidence in approaching them and feeling that you have a right to talk this way. So it's often a confusing thing, by the way, the difference between being assertive and being selfish. Don't let people tell you you're selfish when you're really just being assertive. You're not being aggressive. You're not attacking. You're not yelling. You're not calling names. You're not screaming. You're just standing up for yourself calmly. That's a powerful thing. So I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please do subscribe, tell your friends, and come back. I will be here next Friday, and I will have another topic I'll be talking about that I hope will be helpful to you. So thanks very much.